From the start, it was clear. Shedeur Sanders wasn't just battling for reps. He was battling the system. While Dillon Gabriel struggled in live action, Sanders sat. No first-team snaps. No runway. Just speculation and second-hand praise. What looked like cautious development was something far more insidious. Coaches publicly questioned the decision-making process, while insiders hinted at a pattern, suppressed the best quarterback in the room to maintain power dynamics. The delay wasn't strategic. It was sabotage.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Even so, Sanders didn't just survive the dysfunction. He rose above it. His debut didn't just mark a win. It marked a reckoning. The Browns saw the future, and it wasn't Gabriel. Sanders' confidence and control under pressure exposed the flaws in Cleveland's leadership, but more importantly, it revealed what they'd been sitting on all along. A franchise-level quarterback ready to... There's drama. And then there's Cleveland Browns drama. The kind that spills out of locker rooms and into press conferences. The kind that takes what should be a straightforward quarterback decision and turns it into a behind-the-scenes political war. And now, thanks to insider reports, we know exactly how far that dysfunction went. Jimmy Haslam didn't just voice support for Shedeur Sanders. He threatened Kevin Stefanski to start him. It wasn't a suggestion. It wasn't a conversation. It was a demand, backed by pressure that directly undermined the coaching staff's authority. A power play that exposed everything wrong with how this franchise is run. 1. The owner stepped into football operations to force a quarterback change. And here's the kicker, it worked. Because once Sanders was finally allowed on the field, he delivered. He stepped in, won his starting debut, and became the first Browns rookie QB to do that since 1995. A milestone that should have been a triumphant moment for the organization is instead stained by the chaos that led to it. Because this wasn't a story of development, it was a story of delay. Let's be clear, Shedeur Sanders should have never been a fifth-round pick. His drop had nothing to do with talent. Analysts like Mel Kiper had him at the top of the quarterback class. His film backed that up. His numbers backed that up. But whispers of off-field concerns, some valid, most exaggerated, let him fall. And the Browns got a steal. But instead of investing in that steal, the coaching staff locked it in a drawer. Stefanski and his team prioritized Dillon Gabriel, a player who was fine, but not exceptional. They gave Gabriel reps, development, backing. Meanwhile, Sanders was denied first-team opportunities for months. No meaningful practice snaps. No chance to build chemistry. No pathway to actually compete. That's not development. That's sabotage. And the consequences? Delayed growth. Frustrated players. Public confusion. Even local media began questioning what was going on behind the scenes. Why was Sanders being held back when Gabriel wasn't producing? What was the plan? Turns out there wasn't one. What there was, though, was a power struggle. Haslam wanted Shedeur on the field. Stefanski didn't. Ownership saw the future and demanded change. The coaching staff resisted. And that split between ownership and coaching blew wide open the dysfunction that's been quietly rotting this team from the inside. It's one thing to disagree on scheme or strategy. It's another thing entirely when the owner of the franchise has to force his head coach to play a quarterback who's clearly the most talented on the roster. That's not how good organizations function. That's how they fall apart. And here's the irony. Haslam was right. Because Shedeur Sanders stepped in and didn't just survive, he controlled the game. Despite months of being benched, despite being underdeveloped, he walked into that field and looked like the most prepared, confident, composed player on the roster. He looked like a franchise quarterback. Because he is one. And that fact alone should terrify the Browns front office. Because it proves just how much potential they almost buried. It proves how close they were to wasting one of the most naturally gifted quarterbacks to come through their doors in decades. And it proves that talent doesn't always get nurtured in Cleveland. It gets fought over. Let's call it what it is. The Browns tried to develop Dillon Gabriel over Shedeur Sanders because it was the safer, less controversial option. The politics were cleaner. The media pressure was lower, and it allowed the coaching staff to maintain control of the narrative. But football doesn't care about narratives. It cares about results. And the result is this. Shedeur Sanders came into a toxic environment, blocked from meaningful reps, kept on the sidelines while less talented players got chances. And when he finally got his moment, forced by the owner, he performed. Not just adequately, exceptionally. That's what makes the situation so outrageous. This wasn't a quarterback earning his shot the hard way. This was a quarterback who already earned it, and then got ignored anyway. Internal politics got in the way of obvious potential. Development was withheld. Progress was delayed. And only when ownership stepped in did the right decision finally get made. And look, no one is saying that owners should be dictating roster moves every week. That's a disaster waiting to happen. But this situation was different. This was about correcting a mistake that never should have happened in the first place. Stefanski's reluctance to develop Sanders wasn't about merit. It was about power. And that's what's poisoning this team's future. Because now you have a rookie quarterback who has proven he can lead, who's shown resilience, poise, and undeniable skill. But he's doing it in an environment that clearly didn't want him there. And unless something changes, that environment is going to break before the locker room isn't blind. They see the power struggle. They feel the tension. When ownership is overriding coaching decisions, it sends one message. Leadership is fractured. And when leadership is fractured, teams don't win. That's the real threat here. Not just losing games, but losing potential. Because Shedeur Sanders is the type of quarterback you build around. Not tolerate. Not manage. Build around. He's shown he can elevate the team even when the team wasn't elevating him. And that's the mark of a franchise player. His debut should have never come with this much baggage. It should have been the beginning of a carefully executed development arc. A moment of pride for a team that finally got a quarterback decision right. Instead, it was a firestorm, lit by the very people who were supposed to protect him. And now, the Browns face a choice. Do they double down on the dysfunction? Let the tension between ownership and coaching fester? Keep Shedeur in a system that tried to hold him back? Or do they rally? Do they clean house, refocus priorities, and actually support their most valuable asset? Because the next few weeks are going to reveal everything. The schedule gives Sanders a real chance to stack wins, grow in real time, and show the league what he's capable of. But that only happens if the people around him let it happen. No more excuses. No more delays. No more infighting. The Browns need to unify now or risk losing a generational talent to the very dysfunction that's haunted this franchise for decades. Shedeur Sanders didn't fluke his way to a debut win. He fought for it. And he did it under conditions no rookie quarterback should ever have to endure. He's already shown more poise and mental toughness than most veterans. What he needs now is a system that believes in him. Because talent like this doesn't wait forever. And if Cleveland drops the ball again, it won't just be a missed opportunity. It'll be the kind of mistake that defines franchises. If you're with Shedeur, if you see the potential and want to see this team stop tearing itself apart from the inside, like this video, drop a comment. Let us know what you'd do if you were running the Browns right now. And make sure you're subscribed, because we're not done covering this chaos. Not even close. The Browns have a quarterback. Now, let's see if they're smart enough to hold on to him. Let's get straight to it. Shedeur Sanders is the best thing to happen to the Cleveland Browns in decades. And the fact that it took a threat from Jimmy Haslam to even get him on the field? That's not just dysfunction. That's negligence. And now, the spotlight is burning hotter than ever, not just on Sanders, but on everyone around him. Because his debut didn't just flip a quarterback room upside down. It exposed a full-blown power crisis in the front office. A crisis that's been bubbling for years under the surface. Ownership meddling. Coaches protecting their own agendas. And now, finally, the stakes are real. Because this time, the Browns aren't messing around with just another overhyped QB project. This time, they're playing with legitimate franchise-level talent. Let's be honest, this team has fumbled more quarterback situations than we can count. They've drafted, traded, and rotated their way into irrelevance, chasing the guy like it's a ghost. And now, when they actually land one with raw talent, confidence, leadership, and grit, their first instinct was to stash him behind Dillon Gabriel? Dillon Gabriel? It's not a knock on Gabriel as a player. He's competent. But the NFL isn't about competent. Not when you're in the AFC North. You need dynamic. You need elite upside. And Shedeur Sanders brought that the second he stepped on the field. You could see it in the reads. You could feel it in the huddle. That rare sense of control, the kind you can't teach. And yet, he was buried for months. Not just on the depth chart, but in terms of development. No first-team reps, no clear backing. A complete freeze-out. Which raises the obvious question. Why? Because it wasn't about performance. It wasn't about practice habits. It wasn't about anything football-related. It was about optics. About egos. About who gets to make the decisions. Kevin Stefanski didn't want to be told how to run his team. And Jimmy Haslam didn't want to watch another season go up in flames, while a franchise-caliber QB was being managed into irrelevance. So Haslam did what most owners avoid at all costs. He stepped directly into the locker room dynamic and threatened his own head coach to make the change. And as dramatic and toxic as that sounds, it worked. That's the part you can't ignore. Because Haslam's intervention, as risky and controversial as it was, produced immediate results. Shedeur Sanders walked into chaos and walked out with a win. The first Browns rookie quarterback to win his starting debut since 1995. That's not an accident. That's not hype. That's execution. And now, the rest of the league is watching. Because everyone saw what just happened. A quarterback many had written off as a media distraction or a system QB just walked into the NFL and proved he can deliver when it matters. And he did it in Cleveland, of all places, where quarterback careers usually go to die. This isn't just about one game. This is about what the Browns almost lost. The decision to draft Shedeur in the 5th round was already a steal. But what happened next wasn't just a coaching decision. It was a culture failure. They didn't prepare him. They didn't promote him. They didn't even let him compete. He was benched for political reasons, not performance reasons. That's what makes this whole situation so frustrating. Because when you get a player like Sanders, when you land someone with elite tools and the mental toughness to match, you develop him like your future depends on it. Because it does. And instead, they did the opposite. They withheld opportunities. They stunted his growth. They wasted time. And still, Shedeur delivered. Which begs the question, what could he have looked like with proper development? With consistent reps? With real game prep and support from the coaching staff? If that's what he looks like under pressure, imagine what he looks like fully prepared. And that's exactly what the Browns should be asking themselves right now. Because Shedeur's debut didn't just show talent, it showed resilience. And that matters. More than any stat sheet. He performed under scrutiny, with no rhythm, after being sidelined by his own team. That takes serious poise. Now the Browns are staring down a moment of truth. Because the next few weeks will determine everything, not just for Shedeur, but for the entire organization. Are they finally ready to rally behind their quarterback? Or are they going to let this power struggle continue to poison everything from the inside out? Because make no mistake, the damage is already done. The locker room saw the division. The staff felt the tension. Everyone knows this wasn't a smooth transition. It was a hostile takeover, forced by ownership, resisted by coaching, and powered through by a rookie who just wanted to play. And if they don't fix the internal dynamics soon, it's going to cost them more than just games. It's going to cost them trust, continuity, and possibly the one quarterback who's actually worth building around. This is where leadership matters. Stefanski can't play defense anymore. If he truly wants to lead this team, he needs to own what happened, reset the tone, and get in step with the reality of the situation. Shedeur Sanders is QB1. Not because Haslam said so. Not because fans are screaming for it. But because he earned it. And the organization better act like it. This isn't about being flashy. It's not about name recognition. It's about football. And the film doesn't lie. Shedeur can play. The arm strength is there. The accuracy is there. The control of the offense is there. He moved the ball, made smart decisions, and handled pressure with veteran-level calm. He didn't look like a rookie. He looked like the... And if Cleveland can get its act together long enough to stop undermining its own success, maybe, just maybe, they can finally build something sustainable. But that means cutting the nonsense. That means no more passive-aggressive pressers. No more split loyalties in the QB room. No more sabotage by silence. It means backing your quarterback. Because here's what happens if you don't. You lose him. Not physically, he's under contract. But mentally, emotionally. Trust is hard to win and easy to break, especially when you're trying to build a leader. If Shedeur senses that this organization isn't behind him, fully and without hesitation, you'll never get the best version of him again. And then you're right back where you started, wasting potential, burning bridges, and cycling through the same tired quarterback carousel Cleveland's become famous for. But it doesn't have to be that way. The win is there. The performance is there. The tape is there. All the Browns have to do is get out of their own way. Rally behind the player they accidentally lucked into. Put aside egos. Get the politics out of the locker room. And just let the kid play. It sounds simple. And it should be simple. But history says otherwise. History says Cleveland finds a way to ruin things like this. But maybe this time is different. Maybe Shedeur's raw talent, his composure, his refusal to break under pressure. That's enough to force this franchise to grow up. Because it's not just about having a franchise quarterback. It's about knowing what to do with one. The Browns have a shot. A real one. And whether or not they take it depends entirely on what happens next. Not in the owner's suite, not in press conferences, but in the locker room. In the meeting rooms. On the practice field. The message needs to be clear. This is Shedeur's team now. Let's not sugarcoat it. This entire saga with Shedeur Sanders has peeled back the curtain on what's really been going on in Cleveland. We're talking about a team with a documented history of quarterback failure, finally stumbling into a real one, and doing everything possible to delay, derail, and nearly destroy his shot before it even began. Think about it. This should have been a moment of hope. A young, dynamic quarterback finally stepping into the role. The fans fired up. The locker room energized. The organization finally aligned around a guy who could actually change the direction of this franchise. But no. Instead, it became a case study in dysfunction, in power trips, in internal sabotage. You've got a coaching staff clinging to control, an ownership group pulling the strings, and a quarterback caught in the middle, having to prove himself over and over again just to get treated like he belongs. And after all that, he still came out on top. That's not luck. That's not hype. That's a high-caliber quarterback. That's mental toughness. And it matters even more because of how badly this team tried to suppress it. Let's go back to the decision-making process because it's key. Stefanski had a choice. Give Sanders meaningful reps early, see what he can do, and build from there. Instead, he threw everything behind Dillon Gabriel. Even as Gabriel underwhelmed, even as the offense stagnated, even as media and fans alike started questioning what was going on, nothing changed. No adjustments. No public support for Sanders. Just silence. And when silence drags on that long, it stops being strategy. It becomes sabotage. Whether it was deliberate or not, the effect was the same. Sanders was denied development, denied chemistry with the starters, denied the same trust and structure Gabriel was given freely. It was only when Jimmy Haslam reportedly threatened Stefanski that the tide turned. Let's just pause on that. The owner had to threaten the coach to start the most talented quarterback on the roster. That's not just dysfunction. That's a team eating itself alive from the inside. And somehow, through all of it, Sanders didn't just show up. He won. He walked into the flames and played like he'd been leading that offense for a year. The arm talent? Obvious. The poise? Unshakable. The energy? Palpable. And that win? Historic. First rookie Browns QB to win their debut in nearly 30 years. This isn't a feel-good story. This is proof. Proof that Shedeur belongs. that he has every tool to become the guy, and that the only thing holding him back isn't opposing defenses, it's the organization around him. And that is the issue now. Because the Browns are at a breaking point. This team has seen quarterbacks come and go, some with hype, some with potential, but none with this combination of skill and mental resilience. Shedeur isn't just talented, he's tough. He handled months of disrespect and came out calm, confident, and composed. That's rare. That's the kind of quarterback you build around. But if the coaching staff can't swallow their pride and fully get behind him, then nothing changes. If Stefanski keeps trying to walk the line, pretending there's still a quarterback competition, or refusing to adjust the offense to suit Sanders' strengths, he's not just risking games. He's risking the entire future of the franchise. This isn't about development time anymore. That window has closed. Shedeur proved he's ready, and the Browns must commit. That means designing the playbook around him, giving him full control of the offense, naming him the starter, not quietly, not conditionally, but publicly and definitively. Anything less, and it sends a message that nothing has changed. And if that happens, if the staff fails to rally around the one bright spot in this mess, they'll lose him. Not physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Because quarterbacks aren't robots. They need to know the organization is in their corner. If Shedeur keeps winning games, keeps proving himself, and still doesn't get the same support others got for doing less, why would he trust the Browns long term? Why would he believe this is the place where his career can flourish? This isn't just about this season. It's about the next 5, 10. Whether Cleveland becomes a place quarterbacks go to win, or a cautionary tale of wasted talent. And to the fans, you see what's happening. You know this team has a window, but that window slams shut if they don't clean up this mess fast. Shedeur Sanders didn't ask for this chaos. He didn't start this power struggle. He just wanted to play. And when he finally got that chance, he delivered. He gave this team hope. Now it's up to the Browns to stop dragging their feet and start building a real future around him. If you've watched the situation unfold and you're just as frustrated or finally hopeful, hit that like button, drop a comment, and tell us how you'd fix this mess if you were in charge. And make sure you're subscribed, because this story isn't going anywhere. We'll be here for every snap, every twist, and every headline, because in Cleveland, the drama never sleeps. But maybe, just maybe, the winning finally starts.